Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Josh Osborne and I'm the Product Manager here at Central Innovation for the CI Tools. And welcome to today's CI Tools webinar. This is a weekly webinar that we run to talk about things to do with the CI Tools. Sometimes we'll be looking at new tools. Sometimes we look at frequently asked questions about tools. Sometimes we talk about new features and that sort of thing. Today we are going to be looking at the Keynotes tool, and specifically we're going to be looking at a handful of the slightly less basic parts of the tool. So we're not going to be doing an intro to how to use the tool or anything like that. We're going to look at a couple of things that you can do with the tool that we don't usually cover in this sort of intro tutorials. So we'll look at creating attribute notes and it's associating those with attributes. We will look at the different schedule types that you have and using a master template schedule, and we will, if we have time, also look at the options for scheduling, so creating schedules that go over multiple pages and that sort of thing. If you have any questions, please enter those just in the chat or comments panels wherever you're watching this. And about halfway through, I will have a look and see if there's any questions there that I can answer. And if you have any questions that you think of later on or anything like that, you can always just log a support ticket with us and let us know what your questions were, or if you have suggestions for future webinars, send those through to the support desk as well. I'm going to be working in ArchiCAD 27 today. I think everything that we're going to look at today will also apply to ArchiCAD 26 and mostly 25 as well. So you should be fine so long as you're using a recent version of ArchiCAD. So to get started, I'll just open up my Keynotes palette here. And I've already got a notes database imported into here, so we're not going to look at that part of the process at all. What we're going to do first, though, is we're going to load up some attribute notes. So before we get there, what are attribute notes? So obviously in your ArchiCAD project, everything that you have placed here is made up of attributes, whether that be the building material that's applied, the fill that's applied, the line type that's applied, surface texture that's applied. All of those sort of things are known as attributes. If you go to your options menu in ArchiCAD and go to element attributes, you'll see the way that you can get to how all of those are managed. So you can see layers, lines, fills, surfaces, etc. All of those things are attributes, and we can go through and we can see all of those. So if I can go to building materials, we can see a list of all of those building material attributes in our project. Hopefully that's not something that's new to you, but what we're going to be doing today is we are going to be associating these attributes with specific keynotes so that essentially you can have your attributes inherently know about a note that should apply to them. So you won't have to go and select the note that you want to apply to, say, a certain wall or something like that. You can have the note automatically be placed essentially by it just knowing that it needs to apply this note to this building material, for instance. We'll work with those to start with because that's probably the most common and useful way of doing these. So the way that we apply our attribute notes is through the Keynote Manager. So if I open that one up here, its icon has got a kind of a black window in the background and then a blue one floating over the front of it. That will bring up your Keynote Manager. You can also get to it from the palette, from the menu rather, by going to Keynotes Manager, and it has the same icon there. And you'll see this is where you will have imported your notes into your Keynotes database. And at the top, we've got this tab here saying Keynotes Database, and you can see Attributes Keynotes is the one next to it. We're going to click on that one, and that will show us the attribute mapping list. So this part on the left here remains the same. This is our Keynotes database, and on our right here, this shows the attributes. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through here. We're going to find the building material that we want. We'll select it on the right. Then we find the note that we want to associate with. I'm not going to be choosing something that is specifically the thing that we're talking about, so don't get too tied up on specifically what we link, but essentially what we're going to do is we're going to go through and find the note that we want to associate with the building material, and then we're going to attach it, and that will go through like that. So you can see Brick Finish now knows that the Keynote 30203 brickwork is associated with it. So if I hit OK, that will be saved now. And if we have anything that uses that building material, which I don't think we do, that will inherently contain that note on any elements now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through and we'll use this wall as our sort of our sample for now. Actually, we'll use this wall here, I think, because it'll be easier to grab onto. And I'm just going to see what we have it set to at the moment so that we can make sure that we apply it to something that's present in it. So we're using X-Stud90PB. So that is a composite. So let's have a look at that. X-Stud90PB, here we go. So that contains the building material timber wall and gypsum plasterboard. So let's jump back into our attribute notes. We'll choose building material, and we are using timber wall. Timber wall, there we go. And let's just say nothing here is particularly what I'm looking for, so I'm just going to choose some completely unrelated notes just so that we can see that it's doing what we want. So I'll grab the first one here. We'll attach that to timber wall. So 60101 is timber wall, and then we will grab gypsum plasterboard, I believe was the other one, and we'll attach 70101 just so that it's easy to remember which is which to this building material, and we'll hit OK. And now what we can do is we can select our wall. And you will see in our keynotes palette, so normally when we're working with keynotes, we are looking at this list up at the top and choosing a keynote that we want. We're double clicking on it and we're placing a label, and we can modify the note using this part here. What you'll see now down at the bottom is this label content area. So normally what will happen with this is that if you place a note, so if I place a note in here, when you select that note, you'll see down the bottom it tells you what label, what the contents are of the label that you have selected. So you can see this one has 60102 in it. We can select that and it will zoom to it in the list. It was already on that, but if it wasn't, it would zoom to it, as you can see there. So we can see what's going on there, and we can also we can remove it and turn its visibility on and off using this eyeball here, and that will make the label either display or not display that note. So that's the normal operation for a label. What we can do now is we can go over and select an element. So this is not a label, but we've got a wall selected, and you can see down under the label content, we have these two grayed out notes available, and you can see they have this kind of icon here. So normally on a label, you don't see an icon, you just see the name of the note. But when we select our wall, you can see this icon, and this is the icon for a building material. So if I go into here, you can see these a little bit better. So the building material icon here is this kind of cube of bricks. And when we're using attribute notes, you will see the icon that represents the type of attribute that it is, so that you can see why it's being picked up. So in our case, this is telling us that there are two notes that are associated with this element, both of them via their building material. So we can see those both there. So what we can do now is we can just select this wall. We can go to the CI Tools menu, Keynotes, and press the Label Attributes button. And essentially we'll auto-label our wall for us. So we didn't have to choose the label tool. We didn't have to double click on any notes from over here. We didn't have to do anything like that. All we did was selected the element and said, please give me a label for this element, and it just does it for us. And it knows obviously, again, these notes aren't specifically what we want for this, but these are the two notes we've told it to use. So if you had your project or your template set up to have these all already preset, essentially you don't have to do any additional work to get labels into your actual project. You just select the elements that you want to label, and turn on labels for them, and they appear. So that was labeling it using the menu. I'll just delete that, and we'll go back again and select the wall. Select the wall, there we go. And we can see again, we've got the same going on. So that down here at the bottom in that grayed out, we could label them using this command again. But the other option is we can just turn on visibility for these notes, and a label will appear. So I can select this one here, turn on visibility, and it will auto label as well. We can turn on the other one, and that will appear also. So that achieves essentially the same thing. So if you want to do it that way around, you can do that as well. Obviously, the advantage of using the menu command is that you can select multiple elements at once and have it label all of those, and they will label with their specific attributes. But this can be a good way to do it if maybe you have elements that have multiple attribute notes attached to them and you don't want them all to show up right away. You can do it this way. It's a little bit more time consuming and kind of fiddly, I guess, but if you want to do it that way because you want only specific things showing, that's fine. If you do it the other way, you can also go back. Whoops. You can also go back as well. So if we were to select our wall and label it using the command, so keynotes, label attributes, automatically gives us all of those notes. This label will behave just like a regular note after this. So if we do that and we decide we don't want everything shown, we can just come in here and turn off visibility for that note, and it'll just remove the one that we didn't want it to have. So you can go either way around really. And if I select my wall again, you'll see that it still knows that it has these as part of it. So you can probably see essentially that using this, if you were to go through the process of assigning a bunch of your notes to attributes in your project, you can reduce a lot of future work, whether it be due to the fact that you can have it automatically drop the labels in, or even just so that it means you don't have to think about what labels you need to put on them. You can just select them and you can see right away what you need to put on. Maybe it'll give you a selection of them and you choose the one you want, but it means you don't have to go through the entire note database looking for whatever it is that you want to have. It's just there, sort of served up, ready for you to use right away. And the other thing about them is that we can associate them with all types of attributes as well. So building materials is probably the one that you'll want to do in most cases, I would say, but you can apply them to anything. So we could go through and do composites. We can say xstud 90 pb, I think is what it was. And we can assign 80101 to that one. And now with our wall selected, you'll see that we have two building material notes and a composite note attached to this one. So you can have as many of these as makes sense for you to have attributes for. So you might have building material notes that are ready here, but you'll also have a composite one. And so in this case, you just want to label the composite. So we can turn that on and have it do that for us. Whereas in other cases, you may not have a composite or something like that. You just want to label the building materials, so you have that sort of fine-grained control of how much detail you want to label it to. It all just depends on how you set up the attribute mapping. So the way I would recommend doing this is that in your template, you set this up in advance or at the beginning of a project, so that it makes it so that you don't have to do all of this additional work as you go through the project or at the very end or anything like that. Just front loading some of that work for you to save you a lot of time in future. So that is Keynote attribute labels. I'm just going to pause briefly and check and see if we've got any questions, and then I'll move on to looking at whatever I was going to look at next. Okay, got a couple of questions here. So why doesn't the Keynote update when the wall composite is changed? So I think what you mean there is, so if you have a wall that's placed and it's linked to note, and its composite is linked to note 1, and you change it so that it's linked to note 2, you want it to automatically update. The keynote labels don't automatically update. They always rely on an audit to do that. So what you would need to do is, you would have to remove the note that was already placed and place a new one, because they don't read the thing that they are attached to live. The reason for that is just that if they did do that, it would use up an enormous amount of your CPU power and would make ArchiCAD considerably slower if it did that. So they don't do that. It's a possibility that we might be able to make them do that in the future, but I don't know that we can, just given how much it would slow down ArchiCAD. But no, they don't do that, and that's why. Can a keynote read a code from the composite name using an expression? No, that is a very cool idea, but no, it can't do that at the moment. It's possible that we might be able to do something so you could set up a bunch of rules where it searched for certain strings inside certain attributes and then applied specific notes based on that. It would require a very, very large amount of setup on your part to set up all of those lookups, but it might be possible. So no, it certainly can't do that at the moment, but that is a potential future thing, so I'll add that to our wish list. Can you make the keynote apply with the orientation of the wall? They seem to apply horizontally. They do apply horizontally by default, yes. There's not really a good way for the keynote to know the orientation of the wall, so we can't make it do that. We might be able to make a way so that when you hit the label command, it would allow you to specify the angle for the baby or something like that. But it doesn't have any good way of telling what the orientation of the wall is, because it's just a label, so it doesn't really know that. But we may be able to do something there. And also, can you set it to read just the building material finish? So they can be applied to specific surfaces. So surfaces is one of the option types. Go there. You can go through and you could choose the surface that you want it to apply to, and then apply an attribute note to it that way. So that would allow you to do that. And that should work fine on building material surfaces, because they still are the surface, I believe. Okay, and we've got another question there about the document transmittal, so I'll come back to that once we finish up with the keynotes here. Attribute notes, yes, you can apply them to the surfaces using that option there. Your other things, I will add them to our wish list, see what we can do in future. So keynote schedules. The thing that I wanted to show you today was using essentially a schedule template. So what we're going to do is we're going to make we'll make a new sheet. Oh no, that one's okay. So this sheet is using our A1 landscape master. And we've got this placed on it. Let's just move this over to here. And so with keynote scheduling, as you probably already know, let's just put these on to dock elevation. Is a strange choice. Put them onto the ArchiCAD layer so that we can see them on our sheet here. Yep, there they are. So the normal way that you add schedules is go to keynotes, create schedule. We'll place it on the current layout and include the notes that are visible on its own layout. and we'll hit OK, and that will place a keynote schedule using the default settings, which is what you want in most cases. What we want to do though is we want to override the settings here, so we want to set some different default settings here and have those be picked up on potentially all of the sheets in our project. So I'm just going to delete this layout here and we'll go back into create schedule here, and you can see in the options here, so we'll leave these all the same here. We've got this apply settings here that says of the schedule on the master layout, and if I have the tooltip come up there, you can see if no schedule is found on the master layout, the default settings will be used. So that's what it's using at the moment. There's no schedule on the master layout, so it doesn't have default settings to use. It doesn't have a master setting to use, so it's using the default settings. What we're going to do is we're going to create one of these master layout schedules. So this is using A1 landscape, so we'll jump over to the A1 landscape master, and we will grab the object tool. Find keynote schedule, and then we'll set this up. So just to make it easy to spot, we will make the text a lovely color. Let's make it italic as well, just so that we can see it easily. Make that show the lowest only, category only, prefix the key to the title with a dash. Okay, and then we'll place this over here. There we go. So we've got our keynote schedule placed in the location that we want it to be shown and looking the way that we want it to. Now we can jump over to our ground floor sketch view again, and we get, oh, I forgot to turn off the layer, but that's okay. And we can do the same again. So we come through here, we go CI Tools Keynotes, create schedule. We still have this option selected, only we do actually have a master layout setting this time. So we hit OK, and it will generate our schedule over here where we told it to, and using the settings which we told it to, which I only applied to the top level unfortunately, but you can see the so we've got our pink and italic there, which I set for the title, and then you can see that we are appending our what do we call those, titles to our keys, and then we're putting a dash in between them, which is what you're seeing there. Sorry, I forgot the terminology there. Let's jump back to our layout here, and we'll just set this one to be on a hidden layer. That one's fine, so that we don't see that before it gets placed. So if I move this out of the way, yeah, you can't see the master one there anymore. So we can set this up on our master to be whatever you want. It will pick up the location, and I've turned off the layer now so we can't see it, but it'll pick up the location of this and all of the settings of the actual object and use them in any that you place. So you can set up your ArchiCAD template to to have whatever schedule settings you might want. Maybe you want everything right aligned, everything over on the right here. Maybe you want it stretched across the bottom. Whatever it is that you want it to be able to do, set those up here. And then when you create any schedule, it will use the settings here. It also means that you can do the option to create schedules for all layouts, and they will all use the settings that are picked up there. So it means that you can essentially have it create schedules on all of your sheets, and it will just place the schedule that matches whatever you have in the master layout. So you could have a second set of layouts that get schedules placed on them, but they are using a different layout, so they'll have slightly different settings for the schedule. Maybe they'll just say, for instance, if you use some of them have an A2 page, for instance, maybe you have the schedule placed in a different location, or the font size is smaller or something like that. You can have that all set up just so long as you have those individual objects placed on each of those masters. So that just makes the process quite a lot nicer and quicker to get that done. So that is using the master to define the settings. And yeah, you just want to go to your master, turn on the layer that I have turned off now. So you can hide the layer that it's placed on because it will ignore the layer setting for this. It just looks at the settings of the object and the location of the object, but the actual layer isn't brought through to the main sheet, so you don't need to worry about that part. You can keep that hidden. But yeah, place a CI Tools Keynote Schedule object down here. It can just be an empty one, the default object, and then just set it up the way that you want it to, and it will go ahead and do what you tell it to, which is pretty handy. All right, so let's have a look at the document transmittal again. So the way that it works is very straightforward. I actually doubt that you're doing anything wrong. There may just be some sort of problem in your project that the object doesn't like for some reason or something. But yeah, the way that you do it is you just go through, you choose CI select and press the place or update document transmittal form button. It'll let you choose the object and make changes. We'll just not do that. We'll leave it at the default settings. If you're not using the default settings, maybe you've overridden some stuff and you don't want to use those, you can right click on it and just go reset to default, hit OK, and then click to place, and that will place a schedule. Obviously I don't have any transmittals in this, so it only shows the one, but it will automatically bring in all of those. So you can go in here and you can see what's going on. So it will show you the history. You can rename things if you need to. You can show or not show certain parts of it and that sort of thing. And you can choose which issues to display as well using these controls. And then when you make changes to anything, so if I go in and make some more of these, so transmittals, sure. Okay, go back in here, go place or update. It will automatically update with those new transmittals that I've created. So you just select the object, select the object that's already placed and go CI Tools, CI Select, place or update document transmittal form. So that is how that works. If that is not working for you, there's kind of only one way that you can do it, so there's not really anything you can do wrong. You just hit the one command. So I suspect that maybe there's some sort of bug that it's hit in your project or something like that. So yeah, just log a support ticket and we'll have a look at your project and see what might be up with it, because yeah, you can't really do it wrong, I don't think. I'll potentially resetting it to the default settings before you do it might help. So that's worth a try, but yeah, otherwise just log a support ticket with us. I'm just going to quickly check and see if we've got any other questions. Yep. Yes, so if you were doing the thing that I just did, that should work. So yes, please just log a ticket with us, and we'll get hold of your project and see what we can see is going on in there. Okay. The composite finish. I don't know that. The composite finish. It should. It'll pick up all of the skins of a composite. I might need to get in touch with you about that to find out a little bit more about specifically what you're trying to do there. And yeah, the document transmittal. We don't have any training covering it necessarily, because it kind of is just one command that you run. I do have a video that I recorded quite a while ago covering all of the settings in the object though. So I'll get a link to that video and send it through to you after this. So you can have a look at that. That might help with anything else that you want to look at with the document transmittal object tool. All right, cool. Well, that looks like that is everything for today. So thanks for coming, everyone. If you have any suggestions for future versions of this webinar for either functions that you don't know much about, or maybe that you don't know how to use them, or if there's certain tools that you don't know how to use yet or anything like that, please let me know. Maybe you just want to go through and look at the way certain things work in the way that we intend them to work or something like that. Anything like that, just send those requests through to the support desk. Just say, hey, for a future webinar topic, could you talk about this thing or something like that? That would be great. And also, if you have any questions that you think of about anything that we talked about today, send those through there as well. But yeah, otherwise, I will see you same time next week, and thanks for coming.